It's July 24th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the new leadership of South Korea's ruling People Power Party. A former interim leader of the party, Han Dong-hoon, was elected as the new head without a runoff on Tuesday, securing over 60% of the votes. He vowed to be more responsive to the minds of the public. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered her first speech as the de facto Democratic nominee on Tuesday in the battleground state of Wisconsin, where she assailed Donald Trump and pledged to spend the coming weeks uniting the Democratic Party. North Korea has flown yet another round of waste-carrying balloons over the border. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff has confirmed this morning. The balloons heading toward the northern Gyeonggi-do province region come despite South Korea continuing to play propaganda broadcasts. Former interim leader Han Dong-hoon has been picked to lead South Korea's ruling People Power Party. With a lot on his plate, namely keeping the ruling party afloat, Han says he'll make sure that the party responds more to public sentiment. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
Following 4 days of voting among eligible party members and other citizens, the People Power Party on Tuesday announced the final winners of its leadership race. Han Dong-hoon has been announced as the new leader of the ruling People Power Party at its national convention, winning a majority with over 320,000 votes. Han beat 3 other candidates, winning over 62% of the total votes cast. In his acceptance speech, Han vowed the party will respond more to the public sentiment.
Let's try to respond a little more to the people and change according to their standards.
In the short term, Han is tasked with leading the PPP through its agendas at the National Assembly, despite its minority status. In the long term, he is expected to prepare the party for the local election, set to take place in June of 2026, where the PPP will aim for more regional leadership posts. Meanwhile, President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the event and delivered congratulatory words.
2024년 7월 23일 오늘 이 전당대회가 단결과 통합의 새 역사를 여는 자리로 기록될 것이라고 저는 믿습니다.
He added the future of the Conservative Party is in the hands of the party members. The PPP also announced 4 additional members to its Supreme Council. They are Kim Min-jeon, Kim Jae-won, In Yoo-han, and Jang Dong-hyuk. The party also announced Jin Jong-ho as its new Youth Supreme Council member designated for those under 45. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris made her campaign debut in the battleground state of Wisconsin on Tuesday, criticizing former President Donald Trump and asking voters to choose between freedom or chaos. Now, in the meantime, recent polls also show that Harris has a slight lead over Trump. Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris earlier this week locked in her nomination support from Democrats, days after President Joe Biden dropped out of the running for a second term. On Tuesday, Harris took part in her first campaign rally in the battleground state of Wisconsin, where she criticized former President Donald Trump and asked voters to choose between freedom or chaos.
What kind of country do we want to live in? A country... And to your point, do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate?
Harris also cited her past career as an attorney general and a prosecutor, saying that she's dealt with perpetrators of all kinds before referring to Trump.
Before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Actor George Clooney, who has been a longtime supporter of the Democratic Party, has expressed his support for Harris. In a statement to CNN on Tuesday, Clooney called Harris's bid for presidency historic, adding that Biden has shown what true leadership is by making the decision to drop out of the race to save democracy. Clooney, who has long been an influential figure among Democrat backers in Hollywood last week, expressed concerns over Biden's ability to lead the country for another 4 years. Riding on the wave of support, the U.S. vice president was seen leading against Trump in a recent poll. According to a poll conducted on Monday and Tuesday by Reuters, Harris leads Trump by 2%, having received 44% support from the survey participants. While other polls have shown two potential candidates neck and neck, this latest poll is the first to show Harris's lead over Trump. As Harris looks to continue to convince Americans that she could lead the country as the first female president, President Biden is set to address the nation on Wednesday. According to the president on X, his White House address will include plans on what lies ahead and how he plans to finish the remainder of his term. 이승재, Arirang News.
Seoul's top envoy to Washington says close aides to former President Donald Trump has stressed the importance of South Korea-U.S. alliance. According to South Korea's ambassador to the U.S., Han Dong-hoon, on Tuesday in Washington, officials at the Republican National Convention last week emphasized that America first does not mean U.S. alone, and that Washington will continue to work closely with its allies if Trump returns to the Oval Office. In regards to South Korea specifically, Joe said that the officials stressed the importance of the South Korea-U.S. alliance. Now, the comments come amid concerns that Trump's hardline America First policies could cause uncertainties in Seoul-Washington relations. And those uncertainties are also growing among South Korean industries who were caught off guard by Biden's withdrawal of the race. Now, as much as there are great interest in learning about the new Democratic candidate, there are also growing concerns over a possible second term of the Donald Trump administration. Let's turn to Professor Ha Jun-young for more. Great to have you back.
Hello.
So when Trump was in the White House, he was, all about America first. Professor Ha, please remind us and walk us through his policies, especially in terms of trade.
Okay, so former President Donald Trump, during his presidency, began to establish tariff and other trade barriers against countries, including China, with the aim of forcing changes in what the U.S. calls unfair trade practices. Through this, he sought to impact negatively countries exporting goods to the United States and to protect jobs within the United States.
Right. So the policy itself speaks for itself, putting America first. Now, South Korea's steel industry, let's start with the steel industry, is also on high alert after going through the Trade Expansion Act during the Trump administration. Now, why is it, again, such a concerning matter for the steel industry?
Let's go back to the history. In 2018, former President Trump signed an executive order imposing a 25% tariff on imported steel. The background of this action was like in 2017, the U.S. trade deficit in steel significantly increased compared to the previous year, exceeding $30 billion. A 25% tariff on steel was imposed on all countries except Canada and Mexico, which were protected under the USMCA, impacting the steel industry in those countries. Before this measure, South Korea and the United States traded most steel product tariff-free. However, by utilizing non-tariff barriers such as anti-dumping and countervailing duties to restrict the import of Korean steel, the U.S. caused losses in South Korea's steel export to the United States.
And when speaking of trade from, exports to imports, we have to talk about South Korea's automobile industry. Should automobile industry be concerned again? I mean, it did see its largest surplus with the U.S. last year. Will there be a bumpy road ahead?
Yeah, so I think so. Former President Trump pledged and statement can be summarized as increasing tariff on automobile imports, reducing support for eco-friendly vehicles, and changes in macroeconomic policies. There are concerns that if President Trump were to return to power and the value of the dollar weakened, the profitability of exporting Korean cars could deteriorate. Additionally, energy policies are not favorable to Korea. For example, increasing oil price could lead to lower oil prices, which would boost the preference for low fuel efficiency vehicles and temporarily benefit U.S. companies with a high share in this sector.
Professor Ha, what we do have to point out here is that the economy doesn't come alone anymore. It's aired with security nowadays. For instance, semiconductors.
Yep.
Will South Korea's strong, reliable chip experts be protected and actually stay in good terms under a possible Trump administration? What do you think?
Former President Trump has mentioned trade sanctions in the semiconductor sector against China. The U.S. are reportedly considering applying the foreign direct product rule in negotiations with allies countries regarding semiconductor sanctions against China. So the FDPR is a regulation that requires products produced abroad to obtain approval from the Department of Commerce if they use American technology or software in their production. So I think this will have kind of crucial impact on the a potential impact on the Korean semiconductor companies.
Definitely. So you've just mentioned what may be rolled out under a possible second term of the Trump administration. Then how can our local steel, automobile and chip firms actually prepare themselves for the worst case scenarios?
The message from the U.S. government, no matter which administration will happen, is clear. Increasing domestic production in the United States aimed at creating jobs within the country. So currently, many of our companies benefit from the USMCA and have established factories in Mexico where labor costs are lower. If the emphasis shift toward production in the United States, not in Mexico, these companies might face the need to relocate their factories to the United States. However, the U.S. has higher wage and elevated costs for factory construction and maintenance. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it is essential for our government and companies to anticipate and prepare for potential changes in U.S. trade policies.
Indeed, whoever comes into power. All right, Professor Ha, thank you so much for your insight. As always, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
With heavy rain pouring down overnight, accompanied by strong winds, damage was reported in several regions, including Busan and Gangwon-do province. And heavy rain warnings along landslide warnings were also issued in those regions. Our Park Kwon tells us more.
Torrential rainfall over the night across the country has caused damage in several regions, especially Busan City and Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces. A heavy rain warning was issued in Busan as of 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday, as up to 70 millimeters of rain per hour fell overnight, with over 150 millimeters of precipitation in total. Due to the sudden downpour, riverside walking trails in 4 underpasses were closed. Though the warning was lifted later on, the Korea Meteorological Administration advised to stay away from rivers as more rain is expected during the day. The third highest landslide warning on a 4-tier scale was issued in several areas including Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces. This comes as Cheolwon-gun County and Gangwon-do had up to 70 millimeters of rain per hour pouring down, keeping worried residents awake during the night.
I couldn't sleep at all because I was worried of the soil coming down.
Around 70 incidents of damage related to the rain were reported in Gangwon-do province, including trees being pulled up and cars being damaged as store signs fell due to the strong wind that accompanied the rain. And heavy rain warnings were issued on Wednesday morning in Gapyeong-gun and Yeoncheon-gun County in Gyeonggi-do province, with around 40 to 50 millimeters of rain pouring down there. Park Kwon, Arirang News.
North Korea is once again this morning flying trash-carrying balloons over the border. This is already the 10th time the regime has done so this year. According to Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff on Wednesday morning, the balloons are heading to the northern part of Gyeonggi-do province. This is despite South Korea playing propaganda broadcasts at all frontline units along the border. South Korea's military advises citizens to stay away from the balloons and report any to close-by police when coming across them. The prolonged medical standoff here in the country has now stretched out to medical professors' potential boycotting of training programs for future junior doctors. Cha Yoon-kyung has the details.
Health Minister Cho Kyu-hong criticized medical professors who are planning to boycott training programs for junior doctors in the second half year. The professors' move is to protest the government allowing hospitals to accept the resignations of striking trainee doctors and the medical school admissions quota increase. During a government meeting responding to the threat, Cho said it is deeply regrettable that some medical professors seem to disregard patients' anxiety and inconvenience. Cho also urged the professors to persuade striking trainee doctors to return to hospitals. Kwon Byung-gi, the essential medical support officer at the Ministry of Health and Welfare, said in a briefing the same day, professors who will not take part in education and training programs for trainee doctors are reducing the number of trainee doctors. Kwon also noted that the boycott harms trainee doctors at schools and hospitals and is against constitutional and human rights values. He lastly warned that hospitals must be fully committed to contracts and rules regarding the training of doctors, implying possible legal action against professors involved in the boycott. Health Minister Cho also said during the meeting that he will announce a detailed roadmap on medical reforms by August with revised bills and financial plans. Medical support officer Kwon added that the roadmap is intended to quickly normalize the training system and cover gaps in medical care for the second half of the year. Meanwhile, the Korea Federation of Severe Diseases, a patients group, also condemned Yonsei Medical School professors for participating in the boycott. The federation said such medical professors should be ashamed of their behavior and withdraw from the boycott, as ignoring the pain and lives of patients is an inhumane act. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, moving on to the Paris Olympics, with just a few days left, a new era for Team Korea's swimmers is set to bloom over in Paris. Our Choi Soo-hyung has their story.
The 2024 Paris Olympics will feature 35 events in swimming, the second most after field athletics. Currently, South Korea is experiencing a renaissance in men's swimming with stars such as Kim Woo-min and Hwang Sun-woo leading a golden generation aiming for their best ever performance in this Olympics. Kim Woo-min, a strong contender for the gold medal in the 400-meter freestyle, is one of the leaders. At the Tokyo Olympics, he only competed in the men's 800-meter freestyle relay with disappointing results. However, this time in Paris, he feels different. Kim is excited and looking forward to the competition with the major goal of breaking records as well as the gold medal. The men's 400-meter freestyle begins on the 27th. Another star, Hwang Sun-woo, will compete in 4 events: the men's 100-meter and 200-meter freestyle, the 400-meter individual medley, and the 800-meter freestyle relay. Hwang has won medals in the 200-meter freestyle at 3 consecutive World Championships. He is determined to perform well in the 200-meter race starting on the 28th.
In the 200-meter freestyle, I'm very close to winning a medal, and I'm really eager to win an Olympic medal in this event.
The team event, the 800-meter freestyle relay, is also a highlight. Team Korea finished 13th in the preliminaries in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. However, in the last year's Hangzhou Asian Games, led by Kim and Hwang, the golden generation set a new Asian record and won the gold medal. This has raised expectations for the team event, which includes 6 members: Lee Ho-jun, Kim Young-hyun, Lee Yu-yeon, and Yang Jae-hoon, along with Kim and Hwang.
We're focusing a lot on the 800-meter freestyle relay. The 6 of us are working well together on strategies and race planning to show great performances and results in Paris.
In Paris, Team Korea is looking forward to strong swimming performances from the golden generation in this new era. Cha Seung-hyung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Seong, and this is The World Now. U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle resigned on Tuesday over security failures surrounding an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. In a resignation letter, Cheatle, who had led the service since 2022, says she made the decision with a heavy heart and that she takes full responsibility for the security lapse. Cheatle faced calls from both Democrats and Republicans to resign after appearing before a House of Representatives Oversight Committee hearing on Monday, where she refused to answer questions about the shooting at Trump's outdoor campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, frustrating the lawmakers. President Joe Biden said he would appoint a new director soon. In the meantime, Deputy Director Ronald Rowe has been appointed as acting director of the agency. Now to an update on the deadly landslides in southern Ethiopia's Gofa zone. The death toll has been risen to at least 229 as of Tuesday local time, a figure which may increase as authorities and residents continue to search for survivors and casualties. The Gofa zone's Communication Affairs Department said on Tuesday that 148 men and 81 women had been killed so far, adding that the search for the bodies was continuing vigorously. The head of the region's National Disaster Response Agency, Marcos Melis, said that he didn't know when the search would stop as bodies are still being recovered. Another local administrator, Dagmawi Ayele, said that children are hugging corpses, having lost their entire family. Monday's landslides were caused by heavy rains. Locals trying to rescue people buried in the first landslide then got caught in the second, leading to a high number of casualties. With just days to go until the Paris Olympic Games, Polish high jumper Norbert Kobielski has been provisionally suspended for the use of prohibited substance. The Athletics Integrity Unit announced on Tuesday that Kobielski tested positive for pentadrone norepinephrine metabolite, a banned substance, and that a notice of the allegation had been issued to the athlete. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach commented on Kobielski's suspension, saying, quote, "It is good to keep the cheaters out of the games." Kobielski has reportedly left the Polish Olympic delegation. The 27-year-old high jumper came 7th in the World Indoor Championships earlier this year. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service said that last Sunday, July 21st, was the hottest day recorded since tracking began. According to C3S, the global average surface air temperature reached 17.09 degrees Celsius on Sunday, beating the previous record of 17.08 degrees Celsius set last summer. Director of the Climate Change Service, Carlo Buontempo, said on Monday that this week could see days even hotter than Sunday's heat record, as heat waves continue to scorch large parts of the US, Europe and Russia. While Sunday's record seems only like a minor increase, Buontempo commented that the pace of the climate change is remarkable, especially in the last 13 months.
Good morning. A rain bomb drenched the east of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces this morning, dropping 60 millimeters an hour with a heavy rain warning being issued. Brace for on and off downpours through the morning. And expect to see 20 to 60 millimeters of rain if you are in that area. Passing rain is also in the forecast for the rest of the country, so wherever you are, have an umbrella handy. Meanwhile, you can feel that muggy air once you step outside, and most of Korea had a tropical night. And except for the rain-affected regions, heat wave alerts remain in place, with Daegu, Jeju seeing highs of 34 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Seoul tops out at 30, Daejeon topping out at 32 degrees this afternoon. But it should feel hotter than these actual temperatures with that moisture in the air. Korea is going through the hottest time of the year. We had Daeseol, the big heat, on Monday and Chungbok tomorrow. So brace for searing heat for the next couple of weeks and take good care. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.